Starting point for the show was 6 performances that I'd made previously, so the past year and a half, and I brought them together for Figure 4 to make one kind of giant monster performance. The title of the show is Slapping Noises, and I've kind of constructed the title in the gallery space out of wheat straw, so long lengths of wheat straw that I've bound together to make kind of hieroglyphic letters. I chose the material for its kind of acoustic quality and also its kind of angular nature. So when you come into this space, you will see kind of small moments in the space that act as sites for performance. And each of these sites kind of reference the previous performances but have also been slightly reimagined for Figure 4. So rather than creating a aesthetic around the work, I tried to create a sense of energy or presence in the space. So when you come in, you're kind of hit with a kind of dynamicness rather than any kind of particular aesthetic. And I tried to achieve that by using a lot of natural materials, so the wheatgrass, also some flowers and some grasses. And I also have 2 large-scale cardboard cutouts of myself, which are quite uncanny and do bring a real sense of kind of bodily presence into the space. Also included in the work is a series of riso prints that I made with Foundation Press at Sunderland University. The prints feature extracts of a conversation that I had with another artist, Harriet Lewis. We discussed our shared experience of undertaking a practice-led PhD, which is where a lot of this work has come out from, and it moves between kind of personal reflections and more, I guess, theoretical reflections on the process. So another element of the exhibition is a workshop, which is taking place on the Wednesday, and for that I've invited a small group of artists and practitioners to respond to a prompt from a Paul Thek work, the prompt being make a monkey out of clay, which is what we're going to do, and use that then as a starting point for discussions around pedagogy. So once we've sculpted the monkey as part of that kind of workshop conversation, the monkey will then become part of the exhibition. So in a sense, the work it's kind of like an expanded performance rather than an exhibition, or the works are kind of part of embedded references or props to the performance rather than an exhibition. And I've actually tried to resist as much as I can the urge to make an exhibition.
Initially, when Lauren and I started speaking about working together, we saw a lot of cross-references with our interest in materials and working quite sculpturally, and also a relationship somehow to a sort of a strange relationship to nature. And so we came up with a couple of things that we were starting out with. The concept of water memory. So there was this idea of inferring a material into another one that we were thinking of without a very logical sort of scientific connection, and that was enough. Then the idea that if an ecological system keeps on sort of flowing and going, what happens if we think about it, if we sort of halt it at certain points. So stem was like a nice motif because it's the thing between it, so you're kind of like cutting it off.
It's almost like it was just enough for our practices to sort of come together and touch to see where these new possibilities might arise, and I think that kind of informed the way we went about making the show. We sort of came up with a couple of things that we really wanted to make, and then we just went for it from there, and all these sort of new forms emerged. And I think what Sarah was saying about sort of halting something, it almost feels now, sort of looking at some of the things that we've made, it's almost a way to make sense of, stopping these processes or holding these materials as a static, sort of sheer qualitative thing, is also a way to sort of stop and look and make sense of what this new, what these works mean together and what our practices can kind of mean together. we've ended up making things that are very, very particular, and everything's been sort of handmade but looks sort of machined or like mass produced. So in a way we sort of went in with this kind of very broad angle, but actually what has emerged are these really particular forms, which I think has been a real thrill to see emerge, and it feels like there's sort of 1,000,001 departure points and ways that this could be developed, which is what we were looking for. We just wanted to have a few departure points that we knew already existed, and somehow those things, through a kind of really free way of working and, you know, material driven process, have came out quite formally, and that feels like maybe what this kind of practice is. And just being given the space that we were talking about, like, you know, that going back to things being in proximity or almost touching, it's like we need the space and we need these things to be in a room to see how they talk to each other. We've just uncovered so many different processes and ways of working that I don't think I would have done on my own.